Laws on public signage, okay? Before we start, I just want to outline a few do's and don'ts before we begin the talk. Public signs, can everyone hear me all right? I know it's a bit noisy here, we'll be going to quiet places, okay? Public signs will require planning permission unless they come under one of the following definitions. They are contained inside an enclosed piece of private land, inside or on a moving vehicle, relate to a pending election, direct traffic, are displayed inside a building or is a flag of an internationally recognised country. In any such case, permission from the property owner must be granted. Other permissible signs which come under the deemed consent regulations include things like bus timetables, notice boards, house numbers, building names, advertisement of services and warning signs, but these signs must not exceed 1.55 square metres in size. For these purposes, by definition, a public sign could be described as any of the following: posters, notices, placards, boards, fascia signs, projecting signs, pole signs, canopy signs, models, devices, directional signs, estate agents' boards, captive balloons, flags, price markers, price displays, traffic signs and place names. And for further information, please visit communities.gov.uk. Okay? Now you're going to follow me as I go left down this road. Figaro Italian Restaurant Bedford is a traditionally family-run Italian restaurant with a friendly welcome for everyone. Figaro Italian Restaurant has been established 30 years in Bedford. Figaro offers every customer a truly authentic Italian experience from the moment you walk through the door. Figaro's Italian Restaurant. This restaurant has been run by the Sorrentino family since 1969. It's now run by Tony and Carol Sorrentino and their 3 sons. It's a lovely restaurant that has many regulars, but 4 years ago, after many months of dwindling trade, Carol brought up the idea of a redesign or rebranding of the family business. At the time, there were many financial discussions about whether it was worthwhile to get a new sign design. The argument being that one of the family could design it for nothing. There is even a Sorrentino who studies graphic design and needs men, and it was discussed whether or not to get him to design something for free. But eventually it was decided to get a professional in the belief that it would make better economic sense to have a properly designed sign. So guidance was sought from a designer, one who had been civically ordained to translate his learnings and put people on the path of visibility. The designer showed them miraculous examples, interpreted readings and guided them along the way. In the end, the design and installation cost the family £1,300, including that. If we take a look at the design, we can see that it picks out motifs of a celebrated Italian essence that perhaps couldn't be understood as well by Italians as non-Italians. It's easier for a non-Italian to describe an Italian in 3 words than it is for an Italian who would probably know a lot more. The 3 words that the designer picked out for family-run Italian restaurant were freehand, romantic and italic. If I had to describe myself in 3 words, they would be fantasist, never wears matching socks, prefers spring to any other temperate season, and almost always orders melanzane parmigiana in an Italian restaurant. Something about Prose. I don't even know where to start. This boy means so much to me. He is my one and only. None of my exes compared to this boy. I will love him to the end of time itself, until my very last breath. This boy's eyes shine like the most beautiful, shiniest star in the night sky. Just his presence fills my heart with joy. When I'm with him, I couldn't be happier. I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change anything about him. I cannot express how much this gorgeous boy means to me. When I'm with him, I feel like I'm on top of the world. I love our cuddles and the way he strokes my hair when we kiss. It's romantic and so cute. I want no one else in the world but him. I wouldn't replace him for anyone, not even the most richest, handsome man on earth. I love this boy's smile. Seeing him smile when I'm in a bad mood puts me in the best mood ever. I could honestly say I've never felt this way about a boy before. He is perfect in every way possible. All I've got to say is, this boy means everything to me, and I don't ever want to lose him. I love you, Luke Clark. Forever and a day, baby. Andy loves Lakia. I've done a bit of nosing around and found out a little bit about this enigmatic sign. We're living in very unenigmatic times where the particular is often seen as a tangled undergrowth capable of pulling you beneath from your legs. Live out in the open, they tell us, in the public interest. It is curious that this is a public sign, but not necessarily for the public. It's intended to externalise or manifest something felt, like screaming in an empty room or surreptitiously punching a wall in a fit of frustration. Nobody is watching these acts but yourself. You just want your body to know that your mind is feeling. So we write, knowing our hand will move in patterns that will translate what's inside our head. Thinking to ourselves, there you go, that's an approximation of what's in my head. A declaration of love is a sign of some sort. As the ink remains here, these words are left in the eternally occurring present. Love's being a word in the present tense. Its sense doesn't decay and it doesn't open a window to the imaginary past or future. It's as stuck here as much as the wooden limbs of this impression of a generic mammal. It's going nowhere fast or slow or at all. You just imagine it could. Andy loves Lakia. This statement still describes a potentially evolving occurrence. Andy loves Lakia. But Andy is now married to Amy. They got married at Brick Hill Registry Office and have a 1-year-old. Amy still even makes Andy a packed lunch every morning before he goes to work. I know that sounds a bit old-fashioned, but she likes doing it and he reciprocates in other ways. In one dimension, here at least, Andy loves Lakia. As long as this ink or wood lasts, Andy will love Lakia, in my mind and yours. Okay. Do you want to come a bit? The Howard Centre. John Howard was once the High Sheriff of Bedfordshire, who gained his immortality by reforming the prison systems across the country. He helped gain legislation to improve the prisoners' sanitary conditions and ensured they were treated equally. John Howard only ever wore his tricorn hat a handful of times, and one of those times was for a portrait. But this hat has allowed his silhouette to pass through time and become shorthand for a purpose-built shopping centre. The shorthand says, the Howard Centre has history with a capital H. A public...
Wait for
A public building without a sign is like a naked body without a name floating down a river. Acknowledging its past allows a town to throw its anchors out into the fathomless sea. Mussels can then grow on the ropes and fish can shelter under the stern. This is where we are, right here in the middle of the sea. About half an hour in the car from Biggleswade, if you're a quick driver. In this town, the word Howard was once synonymous with John Howard, the great prison reformer. But now it's synonymous with the Howard Centre, where Primark is. Yeah, you can park there. For John Howard, the reformation of the prison system imprisoned his own image. His ghost is called to the séance wearing a red polo shirt with his name tag on it and being asked if he can please come to customer till free. I bet he wished he never reformed the prison system now. Stand still long enough and you will catch many of them. They sort of look like this. Okay. In 1972, the Pioneer 10 spacecraft carried on its side a diagram detailing the biology of man and woman. a man held his right hand like this. Would aliens then think that afterwards the person thinks like this? Is it language? Is it hello, goodbye, or hold? Or is it nothing? Is an organic number provides similar intrusions? Perhaps is a language of we make the world not measuring and shaping with our own hands. And so the world is reducible and multiple to the power of 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 3 more. Because we're trying to get as close as possible. Okay, Sean St Ledger. Sean St Ledger plays football. Having been born in 1984, Sean St Ledger would have grown up in the full knowledge that to reach the apex of a professional game would accompany a degree of fame and adulation. He would have known this and giddily dreamed about it or wakingly feared it at night under his Aston Villa covered duvet. Maybe he both feared and dreamed of it. That's usually the way of these things. The English-born St Ledger has Irish ancestry, which allowed him to be selected for the Republic of Ireland football squad. When it came to deciding whether or not to play for Ireland, St Ledger was forced to acknowledge a few growing realisations. By playing for Ireland, he was admitting to himself that he might never be able to play for the English national team. The other consideration of his may seem a degree more childish, but in essence it contains the metaphysical kernel to each of our own vulnerable considerations of mortality. Playing for Ireland could be his one and only chance to appear in a sticker album. It is this special immortality to be poured out in stacks by school children, traded and sought after by pedantic completists, and eventually computed into an esoteric circuit of time by collectors, which was under consideration. St Ledger was well aware that the future administrators of his immortality would be the collectors. The collectors, in one way or another, administrate each one of us' immortality. At his home in Leicester, St Ledger keeps 500 packs of sealed football stickers above the cooker in the breakfast cereal cupboard. 500 is enough to know statistically that his image is sealed in one of those packs somewhere. This strange act is akin to the impulse that makes people pay to get their heads put into deep freeze when they die. St Ledger's considerations pick up on the idea that image is everything, which was later confirmed by his reading of the author Milan Kundera. Kundera writes, "A person is nothing but his image. Philosophers can tell us that it doesn't matter what the world thinks of us, that nothing matters but what we really are. But philosophers don't understand anything. As long as we live with other people, we are only what other people consider us to be. Thinking about how others see us and trying to make our image as attractive as possible is considered a kind of dissembling or cheating. But does there exist another kind of contact between myself and their selves except through the mediation of the eyes? Can we possibly imagine love without anxiously following our image in the mind of the beloved? When we are no longer interested in how we are seen by the person we love, it means we no longer love." And Sean St Ledger understood this fully when he dreamed of being a sticker. My dad is a lorry driver, and as a result I've long been fascinated with where things come from. Why we gather them around us like hermit crabs. My dad had a haulage warehouse which stored stuff from all over Europe. On the shuttered doors to the warehouse, the enigmatic words "goods in" were painted. I would climb amongst the rows of ceiling-high scaffolding and wonder at these goods. I soon learned that everything imaginable was a goods. The opposite of goods didn't bear think about, nor could be thought about. The opposite of goods seemed to be a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum, just try not thinking. So we fill the vacuum, we make, create, invent and embellish. I myself spent childhood pedantically drawing Beano characters, building bases, inventing ghost stories and inviting kids to join the ranks of my childish organisations. I also put this sign up just so I could tell you this story. Okay, we can print your personal message in QR code onto a t-shirt. To illuminate further, I'm going to quote from Shaunson Ledger's favourite book, Immortality by Milan Kundera. Here is that strange paradox to which all people cultivating the self by way of the addition method are subject. They use addition in order to create a unique, inimitable self. Yet because they automatically become propagandists for the added attributes, they are actually doing everything in their power to make as many others as possible similar to themselves. As a result, their uniqueness, so painfully gained, quickly begins to disappear. At school, I once spent a lot of money on a distinctive Kangol puffer jacket. Kangol was a brand gaining popular momentum at our school during 1998. I felt it was a safe investment and I hoped I might gain a return in the stocks and shares of its popularity. I loved the coat, wore it all the time and it became my thing. People recognised my coat before they recognised me. It even made a nice rubbing sound when I walked, announcing my arrival before I arrived. My own personal trumpeter. After around 3 months of this, I came into school one morning and quickly realised, with a surge of nausea, that a member of my form group, Chris Spence, had over the weekend persuaded his parents to buy him the exact same coat, same colour, same model, same everything. The next day I wore my old school blazer in place of the coat. I spent the rest of the winter term literally deflated and cold. And the Kangol coat got sold at a car boot sale after a few years of utility room purgatory. If the clothes we wear are the public signs of ourselves, then seeing a friend walk towards you wearing the same proudly selected jumper is a disintegrating feeling. It can be a nicely disintegrating feeling. It can be awful. Depends on what mood you're in or whether or not the jumper looks good on that person, or if you even like that person. Tell me if I'm going to get run over. Okay, grey cigarettes. I would like to read you a passage from Pete the Expeditionary Flight by George Orwell. The book was published in 1936 when... Sorry, he said Aaron. The book was published in 1936 when the populace was well used to war and could feel its imminence in the air like you can feel the imminence of autumn when August ends. The hero or anti-hero of the book is Gordon Comstock, a young bookshop assistant, internally striking out at a world he feels has rejected him and whose systems of money and class he blames for his own failures as a poet. It's safe to assume advertisements like this were dotted around the streets when George Orwell wrote the following lines. His eyes refocused himself upon the posters opposite. He had his private reasons for hating them. Mechanically he reread their slogans. Kangaroo Burgundy, the wine for Britons. Asthma was choking on. QT sauce keeps hubby smiling. Hike all day on a slab of Vitamal, or Vitamal. Curve cut, the smoke for outdoor men. Kiddies clamour for their breakfast crisps. Corner table enjoys his meal with Bovex. Corner table, heir of the ages, victor of Waterloo. Corner table, modern man as his masters want him to be. A docile little porker sitting in the money sty drinking Bovex. Somehow it was all mixed up with the ad posters opposite. He looked now with more seeing eyes at those grinning yard-wide faces. After all, there was more than mere silliness, greed and vulgarity. Corner table grins at you, seemingly optimistic, with a flash of false teeth. But what is behind the grin? Desolation, emptiness, prophecies of doom. For can you not see, if you know how to look, that behind that self-satisfaction, that tittering fat-bellied triviality, there is nothing but a frightful emptiness, a secret despair. The great death wish of the modern world, suicide pacts, heads stuck in gas ovens in lonely maisonettes, French letters and amen pills, and the reverberations of future wars. Enemy aeroplanes flying over London, the deep threatening hum of the propellers, the shattering thunder of the bombs. It is all written in corner cable's face. He watched the ribbon of torn paper whirling, fluttering on the QT Source advertisement. Our civilization is dying, it must be dying, but it isn't going to die in its bed. Presently the aeroplanes are coming, zoom, whiz, crash. The whole Western world going up in a roar of high explosives. Cheery. Well, it never happened. Gordon Comstock's vitriolic and pessimistic prophecy, induced by the passive smiling faces of advertising, never came to pass. On the contrary, all his dread has been disarmed into a quaint, oxidising ruin, which we look upon with nostalgia of a time we never lived. It makes you wonder what hated articles of modern life will be cherished by future generations as sweet reminders of a simpler, slower-paced existence. What else will be the focus for our nostalgia in years to come? In future years, this advert will be maintained by painting over the paint that has faded or flaked off. The advert will have been lost forever, but a facsimile of a facsimile of a facsimile will be echoing onwards into the future. Now we're going to go back in front of the... Arrowhead Head. This is Bedford Creative Arts public notice board. In an act of dizzying duality, it refers to me and what is happening now. It's a really low budget impression of folding space and time. If I stand next to the words Arrowhead Head, you have an image of me and the real me. So it's a self-portrait in chalk. Chalk is fired in the kiln of history. Chalk is many tiny sunken skeletons of plankton fused with the remains of bottom-living bivalves in the oceanic pressure cookers of time. That's what real chalk is. When you drag chalk across a board, you're dragging the past into the present. Chalk can now be made up chemically in factories. Without its historical weight, chalk is a far lighter thing. I've never minded my name much. It's equal parts biblical and anatomical. So it has some weighty images behind it, making it easy enough to remember. Though someone the other day thought I was named Adam after having known me for a month. When someone says my name in public, like on a register, I absurdly become conscious of my own head, thinking people might be staring at it. It's kind of happening now. My name is a sign I carry around with me every day. I have to put it in emails, checks and online forms. I always used to envy animals in cartoons who would sign themselves with an X, as though they have dissolved into some animal fraternity where signs of self aren't needed. Maybe they are Buddhists, maybe they are socialists, like Boxer in Animal Farm. But look what happened to him. He signed his name with an X and got took to the knackers yard to be boiled for glue. Having a name is having a little bit of power. Very few of us name ourselves. Do our names provide the soil from which our lives grow, so that our lives build elements from its chemical base? Are names succinct signs herding us along to some dinner plate? We probably know our name before we know our own image in a mirror.
You see the mural?
Sorry? What is? I might still make a film.